Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take roll, please. Supervisors Kohlmeyer, Brunig, and Esposito are excused.
Underhill and Elverman. Mike.
There you go. Thank you. At this time, we'll open the floor up to citizens' comments. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. State your name and address for the record.
Hello, John Franco, 10732 64th Street, Kenosha. I'd like to speak to Resolution 43. I encourage the board to vote in support of giving county employees domestic partner benefits. If domestic partners have legal status, then there is absolutely no reason to deny same-sex couples health care benefits. In other words, there is no constitutional justification to restrict those benefits from same-sex couples. However, if one wants to impose one's religious morality on the civil policy, then one could make an argument. Unfortunately, the argument would be misguided since this is a state issue, not a church one. This is clearly a civil rights issue dealing with fairness. One's privately held religious and moral views, though important, ought not be imposed on this particular public policy. Moreover, to make an argument that same-sex couples should not receive legally entitled benefits because others in the private sector are losing theirs, to me is an odd assertion. The difference between these two examples is that heterosexual couples still have benefits, although they may be restricted or cost more, whereas in this case, same-sex partners do not have any. The issue is not about the quantity of benefits, but of equal protection under the law. I would like to thank Supervisors Hellman and Rose for sponsoring this resolution, and I encourage others to do the same. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Jolie McKenna. Address is 9002 Sheridan Road in Kenosha. I'm the executive director of the LGBT Community Center here in Kenosha. And I am up to speak today in support of the resolution to allow domestic partner benefits for county employees. I was looking and doing some research before I came up here to talk, and it was 30 years ago. It was 1984 when the first municipality in the United States allowed domestic partner benefits in a state government. And 30 years is a long time, and it's time that we looked at this issue, and I appreciate your doing that. Just today, we planted our business here in Kenosha, the LGBT Center, because what we do increases the quality of life for people who identify within the LGBT community. It gives them a safe place, gives them a place to come to get advocacy, gives them a place to come when they're having trouble. And a gentleman came in just today. This is amazing serendipity. He came into my office today. He was here visiting his mother. And he told me that he, grew up in Kenosha, and he had to flee this place because there was nothing LGBT. It was just an LGBT desert, and he did not feel that he would be treated fairly in this community, and ended up moving to Arizona, where now he's a business executive, but he's their business executive, and he's not ours. And it's an important thing that you're doing today. The financial costs are not great for the county, but it truly increases your marketing position. It truly shines up your brand. It certainly gives a symbol that this would be a safe place and people don't have to leave this area just to live their lives. And I just really want to say that I appreciate you bringing up this issue and discussing it tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Catherine Jameson. I live at 22,000 15th Street, and that's in the township of Brighton. I am generally in favor of extending these domestic partners, extending health care to the domestic partnership relationship, because I believe that it's a matter of fairness and justice. And part of the reason for that is that what has already been said is that since the state has established the domestic partnership relationship as a legal status, when people sign up for that, when people identify as that, it's only fair to extend the benefits that domestic partners families receive in the same way that married couples receive for their families. I attended the Finance Committee meeting on this issue last week, or a couple of weeks ago, whenever that was, and I also read the report in the Kenosha News about that meeting. And the only objection that I heard from the supervisors to this issue has to do with the possible extension of cost for the county. And that issue coming up because of two other things, and one of them is that we know that many private employers are trying to reduce their costs for health insurance, and the sense was that the county would be increasing their cost. And then the second issue is that because of the Affordable Health Care Act, at this moment right now, we know that we will have cost issues, but we just don't really know what they are, and so there's a lot of uncertainty around that. And I applaud this concern for fiscal issues on the county board. I think that's great that you are examining and concerned about those things. As a citizen, that's exactly what we want to see. But denying benefits to a particular class of people is not the way to resolve the control of cost. Instead, if and when that is an issue, then it would be, the way to solve that would be to look at those benefits and possibly adjust the benefit package depending on what that is. So back to the justice and the fairness, we cannot discriminate against a class of people for something that is legal. And because they're raising families, we want those families to have the same protection. So I want to thank you for your consideration of this. As Jolie said, this is possibly long overdue, but we're very happy that you're considering it right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Greg Retzloff. I live at 3919 Forest Street. Well, I'm going to take the opposite view than our past speakers for different reasons. Couple things. The biggest, and you may have talked about this in your meetings, is with the Affordable Health Care Act, why don't you put this on a holding pattern? See it in a few months, add all domestic partners let them have the opportunity. They can enroll in health care through the exchanges. There'd be no bickering, there'd be no what's right, what's wrong. That would take care of that problem. That's what it's there for. You can go steps further and say, we may want to put all our spouse coverage on that. That's going to be an option that you may want to think to us taxpayers, that we don't necessarily want to pay for any spousal coverage. And with the advent of the Health Care Act, this gives you flexibility on this. So I'm not here to argue about whether it's right or wrong, domestic partners. I just think that to just encompass that now when you've got options, especially with the health, like I said, with the Health Care Act, I think would make some sense, and it would save. We are looking at an expense to this, and if some of the domestic partners probably could do better than the health plan you might be offering, there'd be flexibility for them. They can look at it. They can see if they get subsidies on this. They might get a better health plan than what the county offers, depending upon which plan they're coming from. So anyways, I want to stress that as something to consider when you're taking this up, that there is an option that can take care of all domestic partners, but they would not have to be subsidized by the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Gina Lepar. I am a Kenosha County employee. I'm a 911 telecommunicator for Kenosha County Joint Services. So this would affect me directly. I am in a same-sex relationship. I am a gay female who has struggled many years for equality on many different levels. That's okay, because that's who I am and that's the way society is, and I'm still going to thrive with my family and my partner and be happy. But at times that I can speak up, I was going to kind of sit back and let this one ride and see how it pans out and keep my fingers crossed and hope everything was going to be okay. And in good conscience, I couldn't do it anymore, so I decided to speak up last week at the meeting. So some of the things that were brought up have already been mentioned, and I guess just to cut to the chase, some things were said about it's not about who we are covering, it's about the expansion of coverage. I challenge everybody to take a look at it. Rather than being an expansion of coverage, it be an inclusion of coverage. This is including people, not expanding people. If I were a heterosexual female and getting married, this wouldn't be a question, this wouldn't be a problem. I could go turn in my paperwork at my employer and my spouse would be covered and there'd be no problems, none whatsoever. Unfortunately, this is the issue that we're sitting at, is that it's looked at as an expansion, and so I would just ask those people who consider this a financial burden to instead consider it as an inclusion. One of the ways that we can do that is probably consider how many more heterosexual people there are working for the county that are single and will most likely maybe get married during their tenure as a county employee. You're going to have spouses added to that. Is that going to be an issue? Is that something we're going to talk about dollars and cents wise? Maybe down the road, if the budget concerns are so much for the county, then maybe they do have to consider either not including any spouse or having you pay for part of your insurance. I'm grateful to the citizens of Kenosha and to the taxpayers for the level of health care that we are able to enjoy as a county employee. So for that, I am very grateful. I would also like to say that any government or county employee, any government employee whatsoever, anybody that works with the public can understand and appreciate just how difficult those jobs can be. A lot of people grow up and think, I'm going to get a government job, it's going to be great, and I'm going to have these really great benefits. But guess what? There's a burden that comes with that. And it's not a burden in a bad way. It's a burden that we choose to take on because we're so committed to serve the public. I have spent 20 years of my life serving the public because I wanted to. I haven't asked for anything in return. This is just who I want to be. This is what is ingrained in me, and this is who I am, just as much as being homosexual is. There's no difference. It's just who I am. And I would like to be able to enjoy those same benefits as everybody else. So if we're going to consider dollars and cents, just consider how many heterosexuals there are left working for the county who could get married. They're going to be adding their spouses. That's going to be money too. Also consider the fact that probably a good portion of people that are homosexual that work in any sector, we're still at a place in society where we're not out. We don't really discuss our personal life. How many people are going to be brave enough, especially working in a government field, to come forward and say that they're gay and they want to enjoy this benefit with their partner? It's going to be a long time. And unfortunately, if this passes, they won't take advantage of that probably right away, because there's other issues that they have to deal with, societal and otherwise and personal, in order to enjoy who they want to be. I know I'm almost running out of time. I know there was a concern about people making sure that they sign something if they lie, that that about being in a domestic partnership. I can probably almost personally guarantee you, please come back to me and say I told you so if it turns out otherwise. I don't know anybody that would pretend. I don't know anybody that would pretend. It's just too difficult to really be. So nobody would pretend. So there was an issue saying that it wasn't an equality issue, and I really do believe it does come down to an equality issue. I can't go out and get married to my partner because if I do in the state of Wisconsin, I can be subject to a $10,000 fine and 9 months in jail for doing that outside of jurisdiction. so I can only utilize what's available to me in this state. So I just wanted to thank everybody for listening to me and thank everybody for considering this issue, and that if it really does come down to dollars and cents, please just view it as an inclusion instead of an expansion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Smallwood. I work for Fair Wisconsin, which is the LGBT advocacy organization in the state, and I live in Madison. What I'd like to do is make the case, the financial case, and I'd like for you guys to look at the free market private sector. In the 90s, the Fortune 500 companies started extending benefits to their gay employees. And, and the reason that they do this is the same as the reason why you provide benefits to your employees anyway. It is to attract and retain the best and brightest. It is to keep your employees healthy so that they'll be at work and be productive. And it is so that their families will be healthy and they won't be out taking care of sick family members. So the vast majority of the Fortune 500 companies offer domestic partner benefits. And even a couple of weeks ago, Walmart extended domestic partner benefits to the few people that they do offer benefits to. And as you might have noticed, Walmart is kind of notorious for being very cheap with their employees. And so if they know the financial benefit of extending same-sex partners employee benefits, then I think that case has been made by Walmart, surprisingly. And so the bottom line is that extending these benefits long-term are financially a gain for you. So I encourage you to vote yes tonight.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Anybody else wishing to speak? Anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing none, citizens' comments are closed. Announcements of the chair. I just want to let everybody know that the public safety software from Joint Services, the bids are due on the 27th of September. So I just want you to keep that in mind. We'll be looking at those the end of the month. We have a budget meeting for Joint Services tomorrow, if anybody's interested in coming, at 4 o'clock. And at this time, I'll turn it over to the vice chair. He got a letter that I'd like to have read.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This past weekend, I received a letter from Becky Zarletti, and here it reads in part, Ed, please pass on my thanks to the county board for the beautiful flowers sent in memory of Larry. There has been such a tremendous outpouring of love and support from the entire community that has been incredible. Larry loved this community, loved working and living here, and seeing and hearing all that he meant to those that worked with him has meant so much to us. Missing him every day, Becky and family. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Kavicki. Just wanted to pass that note along. That concludes my comments. At this time, we will open it up to Supervisor Reports. Supervisor Alverman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Briefly from Facilities, Golf, Highways, and Parks. The facilities, this is something I've been reporting on for over a year now, year and a half, the 60th Street Tower. DNR did approve the project as they had verbally done to us about a year ago. Right now we're awaiting the National Park Service's approval, since a portion of that park of the city's land was funded through federal money. The National Park Service has to approve it, so we're probably going to miss another winter season here on that tower. Well, I have to hope for no icing. The administration building, the building we're sitting in, the critical facade and the roof survey is being considered for the 2014 CIP in the executive's budget. The waterproofing that I discussed earlier in the summer on this building is still on hold until the city decides on the timing and scope of their 56th Street repair. And as you came up this evening, you probably noticed the nice grass on the old Higgins Frost property. We now have a lawn next to the building until we decide exactly what we're doing with that. But again, that would be on hold while we're discussing this waterproofing and the work on this building. Golf, we had the best August in 4 years. So the figures that I was giving you early on in the year have improved. We're hoping for a good September, October. They're working on cost savings as they've been doing all year, and we should be in much better shape than it looked like in June. We did get the air conditioning at Brightondale fixed in time for the air conditioning at Pets to go down. We had some money left in the budget from Brightondale. Thankfully, the season has cooled now, and that air conditioning isn't as important, so we'll be putting together proposals for the funding on the air conditioning on the Pets Clubhouse. Oktoberfest was this past weekend. Kenosha County Parks sponsored in Paddock Lake, and was a huge success, very busy. They had a nice Saturday. Thank God it was Saturday and not Sunday. And it was very well attended. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Elverman. Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few items from the Human Services Committee. At our last meeting, we discussed the Kenosha County unemployment rates. For July, that number is 8.3%. We also went over a couple of other labor statistics. The committee did ask for some deeper additional information that we did need from our regional economists and from the feds. Some of that information will be coming to us at the next meeting. We talked about a job fair that was held, now is passed, which was on September 10th. The staff expressed great excitement over the potential 1,000 to 2,000 jobs that will be coming to Kenosha. We also had a presentation from the Emergency Services Network that receives, I want to say it's $150,000, if I'm not mistaken, worth of money that is dispersed to various entities throughout Kenosha County to help us on our prevention services side of things. We did have a conversation with Ms. Green around the Affordable Care Act, who's told us that Kenosha County has hired 11 temporary staff to help with the implementation of that. What was released on August 28th is the August 2013 Human Services Monthly Update. I believe you all received the email on that. It includes statistics and grant updates from Aging and Disability Services, the In-Home Safety Services grant update from Children and Families, the statistics and grant updates for the Department of Health, what's been going on in the medical examiner's office, update on the ACA and the effect on the economic support and workforce development, and an update on the child support project, supporting parents, supporting kids. With regard to NACO, I have a few things on my desk that I would really love it if people would take them. I don't like sitting here drowning in paper, so if some of these items are of interest to you, there's something here on protecting bonds to save infrastructure and jobs. There's another document here on the debt limit, the fiscal debate, county risks and opportunities. There's another document I have here on comprehensive immigration reform and the outlook for counties. So if any of these things sound interesting to you, please feel free to take them, consider it an early Christmas. I do not want to have to put them in the recycle bin. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hallman. Seeing no other lights, supervisor reports are closed. Moving on.
Old business, Resolution 43 from Supervisor Hallman, Rose and Finance Administration Committee, a resolution to extend health benefit in the Employee Health Insurance Plan to domestic partners of eligible County of Kenosha employees and their dependents.
Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move Resolution 43.
Resolution 43 has been moved by Supervisor Hallman, seconded by Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will take some risk in repeating my remarks at Finance. This resolution is relatively simple. All it does is essentially include persons, county employees who are in domestic partnerships it includes their significant others into our health insurance plan. Were these folks married heterosexual people, this would not be necessary, but given the way that our state laws are worded as they are, this is how we would go about trying to remedy this disparity. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hallman. Supervisor Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will attempt to make some of the same remarks here on this county board floor that I made in committee. And it revolves primarily around the fact that if you look at the private sector and the public sector, which we are sometimes seeing differences of administration, difference in management types, difference in procedure and protocol, there are always things that are in common. Large business, small business, regardless of the type of businesses out there, these different entities, if you want to consider them potential employers, whether it's service, manufacturing, transportation, energy, or healthcare, all have one crucial component, and that is their workforce. That is the people that actually make the wheels go round and round and put the products on the table or the service to the consumer. If you are of the mindset, and if you are of the opinion that your labor force is your single most valuable asset, then I don't think it's a very large stretch to consider supporting Proposition 43 that we have before us this evening. That's probably the first salient point. The second salient point would be, as has been illustrated earlier this evening, that of equality and not necessarily a strict economic consideration. And so many of these healthcare issues, we realize that there is a large economic component. In this particular issue, as is illustrated in the Milliman report you have before you this evening, this is Milliman light. We had the regular full Milliman report on our desks in the Finance Committee, but if I could draw your attention to the paragraph immediately below point 2, and I will begin at the first comma in that paragraph. This is the opinion of our actuary, our economic advisor, and it states, so we do not believe that there will be a material increase in the cost per covered person should the county choose to begin providing coverage for domestic partners. I think it's pretty clear. Also in our finance meeting, we asked our Director of Personnel, is he here tonight, Mr. Riedel? I believe one of us asked him the point of question, I believe it was myself. The question followed as this. Based upon what we know today, if we were to assume that there would be domestic partners enrolled in the County of Kenosha, what number of persons would be involved with this? So just for the benefit of all here, I'd like respectfully ask the chair, Mr. Riedel, to approach the stand if we can ask him a question. How many domestic partners do we anticipate could possibly enroll or potentially or is likely to enroll based upon our demographic and what we know today?
One.
One.
Yes, sir.
I think one is a small number. How many employees do we have in the county currently? And let me rephrase that are taking health care benefits and fall into the category that we're talking about.
950.
950.
Right.
So we're talking approximately 1%. Thank you, that's all the question I appreciate. I'll conclude my statement by saying, again, it really truly is an issue of equality. It's not economic. We've gone through this. We've seen it pretty, at least in my mind, pretty clear. So if you wish to treat it as that, that's fine. If you wish to take the attitude that we should kick this back to committee, or we should revisit it, or we should string it out in some other process, protocol, or procedure, that's entirely within the purview of the county board. But I don't think it really serves to answer the issue we have at hand as is proposed in Proposition 43. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Grady. Supervisor Rose.
The resolution before you this evening was endorsed by the Finance Committee with one dissent. Much has been said very well. The case has been made very well by the speakers, citizen speakers here this evening. One thing that I think should resonate with the board is 2 points. One, a matter of fairness, and two, it's good business. When you consider that in the 1990s, Fortune 500 companies were considering the same proposition, we can hardly say that we are in front of the curve. When companies in this area, such as Abbott or SC Johnson, very respected businesses, offer these benefits, it's good business. When we go to recruit people or encourage people to apply for jobs here, this is a positive benefit which will be viewed by many people that we are attempting to recruit in the future. I don't know whether the benefit will be one or many in the future, but I think it is a matter of fairness that that benefit be offered to all that qualify. It's a legal status that is recognized in the state of Wisconsin since 2009. When liberal communities like Dane County, Madison, or Dane County, or Appleton offer this benefit, we're playing catch-up. We're not ahead of the curve, we're behind the curve. When 20 other states offer this benefit, as well as other communities besides Madison or Dane County or Appleton, in this state, we need to play catch-up. The legal status of a domestic partnership is set forth in the Wisconsin statutes. And the benefits that are mentioned in the resolution and worth mentioning this evening are such things as intestacy inheritance, wrongful death action compensation, workers' compensation death benefits, evidentiary privilege to keep confidential communications between one another, incapacitated partner entry into a hospital or a nursing home, family leave and medical benefits. So these are some of the other privileges that married couples have, and this has been extended by Act 28 by the state of Wisconsin legislature. So I think it is appropriate this evening that we, like so many others, have recognized this as a legal status. It's a matter of fairness. It's a matter of good business. I ask for your endorsement this evening.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Molinaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And all due respect to Chairman of Finance, there is so little I want to play catch-up with Dane County, although this may well be an argument that is one I can go along with. I spoke, I supported this in committee and told you that we had the opportunity to debate it here on the board floor. I came in here this evening prepared to make a motion to send this back to committee, and I'll get to the reason for that in a moment. I spoke with a young lady who spoke again here this evening as a 911 dispatcher for Kenosha County. And I will tell you that before I'm done speaking, it is unlikely I will refer this back to committee, and I will support this resolution here again this evening, specifically because of the comments that she has made and the conversations that I've had with her. But let me make this very, very clear. Our Chairman of Finance is bringing forward a resolution that will impact our budget. You can say it will impact our budget minimally or significantly. And he's doing it 2 weeks before the county executive presents the budget. I would submit that if I brought forward a resolution to increase employee compensation for next year and years to come, if I brought forward a resolution to add employees next year and for years to come, 2 weeks before the budget was presented to this county board, I'd be taken to task, it'd be shot down, and it'd be sent back to committee. I spoke at committee that we have, as many do, and we see it every single day in the newspaper, questions about the Affordable Care Act. We hear at every single one of these county board meetings something about the Affordable Care Act, and we heard it again this evening. Yet when I bring it up in relationship to the benefits we provide every employee in Kenosha County, I'm told it doesn't equate to this issue. One isn't the same. At the end of the day, the cost of health insurance will affect the 2014 budget. It will affect every budget going forward. To say that they don't, in some way, shape, or form, overlap is irresponsible. We held up the budget the last 2 years over not knowing where income maintenance was at. Couldn't finalize exactly what the county executive was going to present, what the finance committee was going to do over income maintenance. That had nothing to do with the significant portion of the budget, yet we held it up. All I'm asking for is to follow the process that we have established with this county board year in and year out. Any other change to insurance that would affect any and every county employee under our plan would have been tabled and brought up as part of the budget debate and brought forward at that point in time. That's where this belonged. It's as simple as that. When I pushed the issue of how it's going to be paid for, the response I got back, contrary to the fact that I'm told I don't seem to listen and put words into people's mouth on this board floor, the response I got back was, well, what's your idea? I'm not the author of the resolution. When I pushed further, the response was, if you're not going to support this, you should cut the benefits for heterosexuals. Now wait a minute. So, and that came from one of the sponsors, one of the authors. So, what is the issue here? Because believe me, that isn't the issue for me. We just heard again this evening, we're hiring 11 temporary county staff to help navigate the early stages of the Affordable Care Act. Why is that important when we're talking about, or when we're giving a supervisor report, but it doesn't seem to be important when we're talking about health care benefits for county employees? I don't understand it. This belonged as part of the budget process. It is 45 to 60 days away from approval on the board floor, the 2014 budget. This belonged in that resolution. This is where it should have been. I am fed up with proposals coming before this county board without any sense of how it's going to be paid for other than the taxpayers are going to pay for it. It includes the very people we are about to, I'm assuming this evening. I've been pretty good at calling the votes. I think we'll be fine this evening. That very same group is going to pay for everything that comes forward here that we don't have a plan for. And that is exactly what transpired here. This should not have been brought forward in this format. I brought it up at committee. It was shot down. Didn't want to hear about it. And quite honestly, to come from the chairman of the Finance Committee at this late stage, I just don't understand it. Again, I mean, I can cite example after example over the years that have been held up, sent back, deferred, tabled, etc., to be brought up during the budget. This is clearly a budget issue, and it's where it belongs. Having said my piece, you may think, and I apologize, it's Gina, right? You may think, Gina, I'll support it this evening. Of course, you're all sitting here saying, I don't need your vote anyways, but at the end of the day, this process has to change. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Molinaro. Supervisor Rose.
I don't view this as a budget issue. I view this as a policy issue, and I think this is well worth thinking about and discussing. Sure, you could have discussed this at budget time. The first year cost here is negligible, $11,000. You don't have to discuss that at all. What it'll be in the future, I don't know. I don't know what the other 950 people who are part of our health care plan now, what that will look like in the future as well. Those are great unknowns, but we know that the current cost is, in my view, negligible when we're talking about the kind of budget that we have and the kind of health care plan that we have. I'm not in favor of cutting benefits to anyone here. That's not before us tonight whatsoever. There was some offhanded comments about that made by, not by myself, but by others on the committee, but I don't think that, again, is a relevant issue. I would merely remind the board that employees are making contributions to their health care costs, which they have never made in the past. They are making contributions to the pension plan, which they have never made in the past. We don't need to argue that issue either, and that isn't really part of it either. So I don't view this as a budgetary issue, but I do view it as a policy issue. And that's why I didn't talk very much about finances in talking to this resolution. As I said, I think it's a matter of good business. I think it's a matter of fairness. When significant major Fortune 500 companies have been offering this since the 1990s, it's time to play catch-up.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Anita Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. I actually was just going to say what Supervisor Rose said. First, I want to commend Supervisor Grady for his comments. This is a policy change, rectifying an antiquated policy. I look at this as if somebody was going to be having a baby or getting married, would we make it go through the budget to approve the addition? No. It is policy. We're not changing the plan, the cost of the plan. It's an addition to who's eligible. Again, I mean, we wouldn't expect for a family to have to come in and have their spouse approved before we put them on the plan. So I just want to say that while I respect what Supervisor Molinaro had to say, I honestly feel that this is policy and this does not belong in the budget discussion.
Thank you, Supervisor Johnson. Supervisor Noble, did you want to speak?
I have a question. I guess I want to know, well, first of all, I see a lot of discrepancies in this resolution. First of all, from a budget perspective, one of the whereases in the resolution says that the estimate for Kenosha County is 4.2 domestic partners per 1,000 households, so that would be 4 people. McMillan, I don't know how much we paid for that, so we've already expended money, but they came up with 1. There's another whereas in here that estimates that the cost would be less than 1% to employers. Our budget for health insurance is $20 million, so 1% is $200,000. So now you're starting to talk some serious budget money. So the way I view it, we're somewhere between 11,000 and 200,000 potentially that we could be cost here. But my question is, and I do believe it should have been brought forward as part of the budget resolution. My question is, when would, let's assuming it gets passed tonight, when would the domestic partners be able to sign them up? Normally, to get included into, a new person to be added to a policy, you can only do it 30 days prior to the policy's renewal date, which I believe our renewal date is January 1st, so I don't think anybody be able to get in until November 30th anyway, so that's my question.
Thank you, Supervisor Noble. Mr. Riedel, if you'd like to address that question.
A logical time to start accepting applications would be during open enrollment, which you know to be November. But if the policy passes, once county executive signs it, we would begin taking applications from employees as a qualifying event to people who have registered as domestic partners.
So they wouldn't have to wait till November 30th? You could consider it a qualifying event?
I would consider it a qualifying event as the person who manages the plan, yes.
Okay. I don't know, it seems like a little bit of a gray area, but it just came to my thought while I was listening to people talk. So I personally feel it should be a budget issue. It should have come forward as a budget. The budget would have been coming forward in 2 weeks. I don't think there's an urgency here. So that's my feeling.
Thank you, Supervisor Noble. Supervisor Hallman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you all know, I'm co-sponsor on this with Supervisor Rose. I wanted to address the supervisor's question about the first whereas on the back side of the page. The statistics, as it were, around same-sex couples and LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered people has been something of great inquiry for many folks. Those numbers there are just based off of the general population of Kenosha County. They're not specific necessarily to the folks that are employed by this government. I mean, there have been stats done not just by the Census Bureau, but the Gay and Lesbian Task Force. There's been some different base numbers that have sort of been kicked around to try to ascertain specifically how many folks do we have that are LGBT, how many are in same-sex partnerships, or same-sex couples, same-sex relationships. The number that you see there in that, whereas those numbers are just about estimates based off of our general population of Kenosha County as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hallman. Seeing no more requests to speak, roll call is requested. Resolution 43 passes 17-3. We'll continue on with the meeting.
New business ordinance 13 from Planning Development and Extension Education Committee regarding David C. and Pamela M. Geiger request a rezoning from R8 Urban Two-Family Residential District to R4 Urban Single-Family Residential District in the town of Salem. Brunig, yes. Decker, yes. Underhill, yes. Dodge, yes. Skalitsky, yes.
At this time, Supervisor Skalitsky has informed me that he hit the wrong button with the last vote. So what would you like your vote to be? No. Okay. So then it would be 16-4 that the resolution passes, and we'll make note of that. Ordinance 13 has been read. Supervisor Decker?
Move ordinance 13.
Ordinance 13 has been moved by Supervisor Decker, seconded by Supervisor Dodge. Supervisor Decker?
This property is commonly known as 11231 Fox River Road in the town of Salem. The rezoning from R8 Urban Two-Family Residential to R4 Urban Single-Family Residential would allow the expansion of the rear yard of the current parcel. The applicants indicated that no additional construction is planned on the existing structure at this time. The town of Salem recommended approval of the request.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Seeing no lights, all those in favor of Ordinance 13?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is passed.
Ordinance 14 from Planning Development and Extension Education Committee regarding proposed comprehensive plan amendment. Randall and Janice Borey, owner agent, Borey Colbert Enterprises owner, requests an amendment to the adopted land use plan map for Kenosha County 2035, map 65 of the comprehensive plan, from medium density residential to commercial in the town of Salem. Brunig, yes. Decker, yes. Underhill, yes. Dodge, yes. Skalitsky, yes.
Supervisor Decker?
Move ordinance 14.
Ordinance 14 has been moved by Supervisor Decker, seconded by Supervisor Underhill. Supervisor Decker?
This item is in conjunction with the resolution number 49 scheduled later on the agenda. These properties are located at 26626 and 26900 75th Street in the town of Salem. The comp plan amendment will allow a revision of map 65 of the comprehensive plan from medium-density residential to commercial on part of tax parcel number 65-4-120-044-0200 and all of tax parcel number 65-4-120-044-0210 located in the town of Salem. The town of Salem recommended approval of the request.
Could you read those parcel numbers again?
Sure,
No,
I
I'm just
can.
kidding. No. Seeing no lights, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance 14 is passed.
Resolution 46 from the Executive Committee, a resolution urging Governor Walker to approve the Menominee Casino in Kenosha. Gens, yes. Kubicki, yes. Rose, yes. Elverman, yes. Hallman, yes. Esposito excused. Brunig excused.
This time I'll pass the gavel to the Vice Chair and make the motion to approve that resolution.
Resolution 46 is passed by the chair, seconded by Supervisor Hallman. Mr. Chairman.
At this time, I'd just like to remind everybody that the casino did pass two referendums through the city and county. Earlier, when it was started out, the number of jobs, I think it is very important. 1,400 construction jobs, approximately 3,300 full-time jobs. I know that there's certain criteria that the governor's looking at. I believe in reviewing the material that those criteria have been met. So along with Supervisor Decker, who brought this up at the last meeting, I would like to ask the board to urge the governor to support the casino in Kenosha. Thank you.
Supervisor Alvin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not going to speak at length on this, but there's something that's been coming up in some discussions that I've seen, and some of the airplay and some of the articles, and that is the impact on the taxpayers of Kenosha County, potential impact. And there's a room full of supervisors here that weren't here when we passed this in 2004, probably half of you at least, maybe it's more than half. I would urge you to, and anyone, to read the IGA that we crafted, along with the city, the Menominee, and the agents. It was, according to our people working for us in DC, the best they had ever seen. The most comprehensive IGA and the most protective of a government and a municipality and the tax-paying public. So the length that we went to protect, to enhance our parks, our schools, human services, I mean, you can just go to, it's way too much for me to discuss tonight. But the county staff, the county board at the time, our attorneys, all did more than due diligence on this. And the county, listening to the taxpayers, has been supportive of this all along. So I would urge everyone's approval, and this will urge the governor for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, or Supervisor Alverman. Anybody else wishing to speak on this matter? Anybody else wishing to speak? This calls for a majority voice vote. If you wish to, roll call has been presented. We'll take a roll call vote at this time. Resolution passes 19-1.
Resolution 47 from Judiciary and Law Committee regarding probationary cabaret license for Kickstand Bar and Grill. Esposito, yes. Johnson, yes. Frederick, yes. Arrington, excused. Anita Johnson, excused. Montemero, yes. Noble, yes.
Supervisor Boyd Frederick.
Motion for Resolution 47?
Resolution 47 has been moved by Supervisor Boyd Frederick, seconded by Supervisor Ron Johnson. Supervisor Boyd Frederick.
Yes, this is for Kickstand Bar located on Camp Lake. It has passed everything through the Sheriff's Department and passed through committee for those present unanimously.
Thank you, Supervisor Frederick. Seeing no lights, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 47 passes.
Resolution 48 from Judiciary and Law Committee regarding probationary cabaret license for Out of the Park Entertainment, DBA Players Park South. Esposito, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, excused. Anita Johnson, excused. Montemero, yes. Noble, yes.
Supervisor Boyd Frederick.
Motion to approve Resolution 48?
Resolution 48's been moved by Supervisor Boyd Frederick, seconded by Supervisor Noble. Supervisor Frederick.
Yes, this is for Out of the Park Enterprises located in Salem. This was also approved unanimously by committee, and it has passed everything through the Sheriff's Department as well.
Thank you, Supervisor Frederick. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 48 is passed.
Resolution 49 from Planning Development Extension Education Committee regarding proposed comprehensive plan amendment. Randall and Janice Borey, owner agent. Borey Colbert Enterprises owner. Requests an amendment to the adopted land use plan map for the Kenosha County 2035, map 65 of the comprehensive plan, from medium density residential to commercial in the town of Salem. Brunig, yes. Decker, yes. Underhill, yes. Dodge, yes. Skalitsky, yes.
Supervisor Decker.
Move Resolution 49.
Resolution 49 has been moved by Supervisor Decker, seconded by Supervisor Skalitsky. Supervisor Decker.
The state requires a resolution from the Planning Development and Extension Education Committee and an ordinance from the full county board to amend the comprehensive plan. This resolution would allow an amendment to the Kenosha County Comprehensive Plan for a change from medium-density residential to commercial on part of tax parcel number 65-4-120-044-02000 and all of tax parcel number 65-4-120-044-0210 located in the town of Salem. The town of Salem recommended approval of the request.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Seeing no lights, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 49 passes.
Resolution 50 from Planning Development Extension Education Committee regarding final plat of North Beach Condominium, North Beach LLC owner, Michael Partridge agent in the town of Wheatland and the town of Randall. Brunig, yes. Decker, yes. Underhill, yes. Dodge, yes. Skalitsky, yes.
Supervisor Decker.
Move Resolution 50.
Resolution 50 has been moved by Supervisor Decker, seconded by Supervisor Dodge. Supervisor Decker.
This property is commonly known as 39613 Bloomfield Road in the town of Randall. The final plat will provide for 3 building pads for the construction of 3 dwelling units in the condominium development. The towns of Randall and Wheatland recommended approval of the request.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Seeing no lights, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 50 is passed.
Resolution 51 from Planning Development Extension Education Committee regarding request to endorse the SURPAC Planning Report Number 54, a regional housing plan for southeastern Wisconsin 2035. Oh, I did again. Sorry. Brunig, yes. Decker, yes. Underhill, yes. Dodge, yes. Skalitsky, yes.
Supervisor Decker.
Move Resolution 51.
Resolution 51 has been moved by Supervisor Decker, seconded by Supervisor Underhill. Supervisor Decker.
The resolution would endorse the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission Regional Housing Plan for Southeastern Wisconsin 2035. The housing plan will be a valuable guide to the development of the county as well as the region and provides housing information and guidance relative to inventory, analyses, objectives, principles, standards, and forecasts through the year 2035. The Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee reviewed and recommended approval of the endorsement of the plan at their meeting of September 11, 2013.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Seeing no lights, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 51 is passed.
Resolution 52 from Planning, Development, Extension, Education, and Finance Administration Committees. A resolution to provide funding for the cost of acquiring properties in the Fox River floodplain. Brunig, yes. Decker, yes. Underhill, yes. Dodge, yes. Galitsky, yes. Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Grady, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Kubicki, yes. Molinaro, yes.
Supervisor Decker.
Move Resolution 52.
Resolution 52 has been moved by Supervisor Decker, seconded by Supervisor Skalitsky. Supervisor Decker.
This resolution would allow a budget modification to designate $50,000 in the Department of Public Works 2013 budget to be redirected for the acquisition and removal of any available property in the Fox River floodplain and to utilize the remaining grant funding before it expires at the end of the year. The Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee reviewed and recommended this item at the meeting of September 11, 2013. The Finance Administration Committee reviewed and recommended this item at their meeting of September 12, 2013.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Supervisor Alverman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm not sure why. I don't think there's anybody here can explain to me either. This did not go to the Public Works Facilities Committee since the money is coming out of that budget. So if there's no one here that can answer that question.
We have staff here. Andy Bueller's here from Planning and Development.
He's not going to know. He's not going to be able to answer my question. Mine would more than likely come from administration or the finance as to why. But protocol and just the way we operate, that's normally how it would be. So, I mean, if I can't get a good answer, I'm just going to move that we push this off for a meeting so it could be addressed.
Is there somebody from administration that can answer that question? Seeing no. Okay, hold on. Supervisor Decker.
We actually asked this question in committee, so I believe Mr. Bueller will be able to answer that question properly.
So that'd be good.
If it's coming out.
Yeah, hi, I'm Andy Bueller, Planning and Development. Basically, that was the recommendation from the Budget Director, that it go through Planning and Development and Education Committee.
Okay.
And so that's how we forward it through.
Okay.
Well, I understand that it would go through that committee, but if it's coming out of another's budget, normally that committee would also have a look at. I don't care.
Okay, so at this point, you would need to make a motion to send it back to your committee?
Correct.
Okay. It's been moved by Supervisor Alverman to send it back to the Public Works Committee. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Supervisor Nudo. Any discussion on sending it back to that committee?
I'll speak on it, Mr. Chairman. As I said, since I've been here, it's just a matter of protocol that committee or a committee chair or the finance director would talk to you. Whoever proposes this, it makes no difference to me, and I'm sure we'll be in agreement, but I don't think we should change that process. It shouldn't be a surprise to the committee chairman or the committee to see that money is coming out of your budget. Thank you.
Supervisor Rose.
When this came before the Finance Committee, no one raised the issue from the administrative side or from the committee side. At the point Mr. Elberman makes, I have no objection to his proposition. But the only inquiry I would make from the staff is time a factor here? And if so, what is that time limit?
Yeah, Andy Bueller again. Well, I guess the time is some part of a factor from a standpoint that the money that is available through the grant does expire at the end of the year. Our housing authority is working on asking for an extension of that, and so I guess I would say it's not necessarily required to know exactly tonight because he has some time to work with that, but it does help with the situation with being able to ask the state for the extension.
Thank you. Supervisor Elverman, when's your next committee meeting?
It'll be the first Monday in October. I think it's the 7th. There's plenty of time.
Okay.
We won't hold it up. I just want to have our couple.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Supervisor Anita Johnson.
I'm just going to ask what Terry asked. I was just going to ask what Supervisor Rose asked.
Okay. All right. Seeing no more lights, all those in favor of sending it to the Public Works Committee at their next meeting, say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed to that? No. Good one. Okay. It will be sent back to the Public Works Committee. Oh, you're saying no to sending it back? Okay. All right. Let's note that. I thought you were just saying no, that there were nobody. Okay. Good one. Okay, then that's
the only
yes.
descending.
Is there anybody else who wants to say no to sending it back to committee for the record? Sure. Who said that? Supervisor Molinaro?
Motion carried, correct?
Yes, it did.
Okay, so there is no specific supervisor named for who voted no. Motion carried, we're done.
Okay.
Resolution 53 from Public Works, Facility, and Finance Administration Committee, a resolution to purchase parcel of land for Ice House Trail Extension. Elverman, yes. Noble, yes. Dodge, yes. Nudo, no. Scalise, yes. Finance, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Grady, yes. Kohlmeyer, yes. Kubicki, yes. Molinaro, yes.
Supervisor Elverman?
Move Resolution 53.
Resolution 53 has been moved by Supervisor Elverman, seconded by Supervisor Noble. Supervisor Elverman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I reported all of last year on the Ice House Trail. That is the trail that connects our Silver Lake Park along right up to our beach to Highway B at this point. Highway B is one of the main roads that goes through Silver Lake, hitting Highway 50. It's actually the main road into Silver Lake. The trail stops at Highway B. There is an industrial park across the street from the trail, and the trail continues there, or will continue, into village property, where the village is going to pick up the work, to enable people to leave Silver Lake, hit our trail, never have to hit Highway B, bicycling, walking, hiking along Highway B, to hit the trail that goes around the shore of Silver Lake through the county park. It connects for biking, hiking, rollerblading, all kind of pedestrian activity, and it is an amount of money that at the committee drew some questions. It did from me also. When you get into that industrial park, the size of land, I guess, that you look at there, it doesn't seem very big, but it does give us possession of that portion of the trail. Clears anyone of liability because we have the ownership, not going through someone else's property. So through discussion and questioning, the majority of the committee approved, and to finish this off and to connect for safety, the tourism that goes along with these trails, and the addition to the public of Silver Lake, I would ask for your approval.
Thank you, Supervisor Alverman. Supervisor Nudo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I voted no for this resolution in committee, and I'm going to vote no again tonight. One of the main reasons, actually I should say the only reason that I voted against it is because we're way, in my opinion, we're way overpaying for this piece of property. I think it's about time that we look how much money we spend, and that's the reason I'm going to vote no.
Thank you, Supervisor Nudo. Supervisor Skolitsky?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Although I supported this in committee, Supervisor Nudo and I discussed it also because I concur with what he's saying. I think we overpaid for what it is. However, the flip side of this is the value it brings to the residents out there. It's kind of this small parcel that separates two roads. It had completed out. And so I'm a little torn right now, even though I support in committee. The one other thing that and I don't think staff is here, that I have a question about is there's a $6,000 allocation here for a security fence of some nature. And we just didn't have time, or maybe it just didn't dawn on me till later, I don't think that this is a common practice that we put in parcels that we buy like this, and might it set a precedent that would be all of a sudden creates this need in the future? And I don't know if anybody is here, either from Corp Counsel or maybe staff, that could answer why we feel a need, because this is a large parcel. It has a business located on it, but it's a distance away. The path will be delineated, and so I'm just kind of curious there, because I don't know to the right or the left of it there's not fencing, because it's a road. It's just like standing out in the middle of nowhere. So I don't know if we can get any clarification on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Skolitsky. Staff, if you'd like to, I know there's probably two people that could speak on this. Gary, you want to talk? You presented it at the committee meeting I was at, so.
Gary Sipsma. During the negotiations with the property owner, he expressed concerns about the security of his business. This is a business park. The path will be located adjacent to the building where he does repairs for all types of vehicles and other equipment that other people own. He was concerned about the security. So we did offer him an amount of money equivalent to the construction of a security fence along the path line. It would ultimately be up to the property owner to determine what type of security. If he did choose a fence, that he certainly could do that, but we would be funding equivalent to a fence, and it's up to him to determine the appropriate type, if any, security for his business. During the negotiations, it was pretty clear that there really isn't an upside to this property owner for this trail going through his property, the only upside being some monetary compensation, and that's basically how the negotiations went and how we determined the offer to the owner.
Thank you, Gary. You still have the floor, Supervisor Skolitsky.
Gary, and maybe I should ask this committee, is that a competitive bid process with regards to, do you think that the amount of $6,000 is reasonable for the amount that we're looking at, or is just a number we identified?
It's the value of 350 lineal feet of security fence, and that's, again, it's up to the owner to determine if that's the most appropriate use for a method of security of his property.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Skalitsky. Seeing no other lights, all those in favor? Roll call is requested.
Tell them not to push their buttons, Jeff, please, till she's ready. 'Cause some people
Yeah, nobody push your buttons now. Let her get ready. Good. Resolution 53 passes 19-1.
Resolution 54 from Public Works Facilities Committee, a resolution to approve the appointment of Mr. Roger Johnson to the Kenosha County Traffic Safety Commission. Elverman, yes. Noble, yes. Dodge, yes. Nudo, yes. Skalitsky, yes.
Supervisor Alverman.
I would move Resolution 54, Mr. Chairman.
Resolution 54 has been moved by Supervisor Alverman, seconded by Supervisor Nudo. Supervisor Alverman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Traffic Safety Commission is an important tool for our Mr. Sipsma, for the Highway Department, for other communities. And Mr. Johnson has served on the committee, has much experience in the community. He has very good attendance. The county executive has asked him to continue, and he will be succeeding himself without pay. I would urge your confirmation. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Alverman. Seeing no lights, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 54 passes.
Communication from Andy M. Bueller regarding future items scheduled before the Planning Development Extension Education Committee.
I will receive and file that communication.
Claim Scott Lawrence Durkin and estate of Rebecca Kraus, wrongful death.
We'll refer to the Corporation Council.
Approval of the September 3rd, 2013 minutes by Supervisor O'Day.
Supervisor O'Day.
Motion to approve September 3rd minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes by Supervisor O'Day, seconded by Supervisor Decker. All those in favor? Aye.
Second, third, fourth, fifth.
It's been moved to adjourn by the Vice Chair and seconded by half the other supervisors. Now, we'll say Supervisor Skalitsky.